Hello and welcome. You're watching the News at 6 with me, Ishan Russell. The News at 6 is all about the day's biggest developing stories. And one of the big developments that's been happening over the past 24 hours are developments in the United Nations, where Kashmir's become a talking point thanks to Nawaz Sharif, and Sushma Swaraj would be speaking over there today. So how are India and Pakistan sparring over this matter? We'll discuss that with a special guest as well. But first, the headlines that we're tracking right now. India hits back at Nawaz Sharif's address at the United Nations, calls Pakistan a breeding ground for terrorists. Anti-black money law yields results. Government recovers 3,770 crore rupees from 638 entities and individuals after a 3-month grace period. The BJP presents its vision document for Bihar, says centre will stand behind the state to realise its promises. Nepal battles shortage of essential items. Protest over new constitution leaves over 4,000 trucks stranded at its border. And after fresh airstrikes in Syria for the second day in a row, Russia and the US to hold urgent military talks to discuss anti-terror operations. The top story this evening. India has strongly condemned Pakistan's move of raising the Kashmir issue and ceasefire violations across the LOC at the UN. Bluntly calling Pakistan the prime sponsor of terror, India hit back at its neighbour, saying that demilitarizing Kashmir was not the answer. India rejected the Pakistani Premier's speech, accusing him of misusing the global forum to distort reality.
देखिए आपको पता है क्रॉस बॉर्डर फायरिंग क्यों होती है। क्रॉस बॉर्डर फायरिंग इसलिए होती है कि क्रॉस बॉर्डर फायरिंग की आड़ में इन्फिल्ट्रेशन किया जा सके, और ये भी फिर आप समझ सकते हैं कि ये क्रॉस बॉर्डर फायरिंग कौन करेगा, क्योंकि इन्फिल्ट्रेशन कौन करवा रहा है।
By calling Pakistan a prime sponsor of terrorism, India has hit back strongly at Islamabad. This retort came in response to Pakistan raising the Kashmir issue at the UN. Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif had proposed a 4-point peace initiative in his UNGA address. This included demilitarization of Kashmir.
1. We propose that Pakistan and India formalize and respect the 2003 understanding for a complete ceasefire on the line of control in Kashmir. For this purpose, we call for UNMOGIP's expansion to monitor the observance of the ceasefire. 2. We propose that Pakistan and India reaffirm that they will not resort to the use or the threat of use of force under any circumstances. This is a central element of the UN Charter. 3. Steps must be taken to demilitarize Kashmir. 4. Agree to an unconditional mutual withdrawal from Siachen Glacier, the world's highest battleground.
Well, our stance is well known to you. I mean, you have already seen the kind of engagements that we have had, the kind of responses we have given. So it is not something hidden. I mean, it is out there in the open. What we have said, we have extended repeatedly a hand of friendship to Pakistan, but at the same time, we have said that any cross-border provocations will also be responded.
Reacting to the Pak Prime Minister's remarks that Palestinians and Kashmiris were oppressed by foreign occupation, India replied to the occupier in question was Pakistan. India replied to Sharif's speech by exercising its right of reply during the general debate of 70th session of UN General Assembly. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And Razal Laskar, news coordinator for the Hindustan Times, joins us to help us understand, Razal, as far as the sparring between India and Pakistan goes. Now, things that happened were along the expected line, given what has been happening over the past couple of months between the two neighbours. But how do we move on from here? Are we really moving on from here? Or has Kashmir become too big an issue for India and Pakistan to put it aside and talk about other things?
Well, I mean, that would be the ideal way of going about things, to put Kashmir aside for some time and, look at other issues that could help drive bilateral relations. It was, in fact, suggested by former Pakistani President Asif Zardari at one time. But we all saw what happened after that. There was such a strong reaction from within Pakistan that, one couldn't go on those lines. Now, even Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's this 4-point formula, it makes very little sense. It's again another attempt by Pakistan to internationalize Kashmir and to twist things in such a manner that, it would be to Islamabad's advantage. So I really don't think that, we are going to see some, spectacular breakthrough, or we're going to see some, way in which both these countries are going to, move forward in any time in the near future.
All right, but as far as the resolution of the problems in Kashmir go, as far as this move by Pakistan is concerned, does it really set back the process, or do you think it's more talk that obviously happens when you're speaking at such a global forum?
Well, it's a very, very loaded sort of a formula, this formula proposed by Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. He talks about, formalizing the ceasefire. Well, we've had this ceasefire since 2003. If it isn't formal, there wouldn't be a ceasefire. And then he talks about bringing in the UN MOGIP, which is a group that India doesn't recognize. So it's another way of, bringing in a third party, which, goes against the Simla agreement. And then you talk about, demilitarizing Kashmir. Well, that means demilitarizing even on the Pakistani side. But we have no formula. I mean, nothing is said. These are very broad. These are very kind of, grand sounding kind of plans. And, even talking about pulling out from Siachen. Well, in Siachen, Pakistan is at a disadvantage. So obviously they want troops to be pulled out, because once troops are pulled out, then they could be free to do whatever they want.
All right, if you talk about things from here on, you've said it doesn't look bright, and given the fact that there's hardly any communication between the two countries, how do you see things developing? And as far as India is concerned, because, given the fact that India has been pushing for at least peace at the border, do you think that could happen? Because the number of ceasefire violations have certainly dramatically gone up.
Well, the ceasefire violations are a very, very worrying thing. I mean, we've had this ceasefire from 2003, which is largely held. But now, most of the violations, if you really look at it, if you do an analysis, it's from the Pakistani side. Coming back to your point about how do we take things forward, I mean, one has to look at who's really holding the reins. The reins aren't in Mr. Nawaz Sharif's hands. The reins are in the hands of a gentleman called General Raheel Sharif, who sits in Rawalpindi, who decides Pakistan's foreign policy. He's the army chief. Now, India is not going to be speaking to the Pakistani army chief. So till you get over this mismatch, I mean, I really don't know how we can take things forward.
All right, India and Pakistan relations certainly receiving a setback over there with what happened at the UNGA. Raza Hassan Lashkar, thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand the semantics of this. And it's not only in the diplomatic field. India and Pakistan are at loggerheads in cricket as well. The Pakistan Cricket Board is keeping all options open, including a boycott if India refuses to play against them for a series in December. The Pak board chief said he remains hopeful of a positive outcome when both officials will have a chance to meet next month in Dubai during an ICC meet. Earlier, PCB had written a letter to BCCI seeking update on the proposed bilateral series. Amid political tensions between the two neighbours, the Indian board had ruled out immediate resumption. In fact, India has not played a full bilateral test series with Pakistan since 2008, when the Mumbai terror attacks took place.
We have signed with India this MOU that we will play 6 series, both India and Pakistan. And the Pakistan series so far is in UAE. We've signed on the dotted line that we will play this, and the first of the series will be in UAE in December. Now, this is an agreement between us, and I feel that the BCCI should honour that agreement.
Moving on now, the NDA government's black money drive has brought in 3,770 crore rupees to its kitties. A total of 638 declarations were made during the 3-month compliance window for declaring undisclosed foreign assets. The 90-day grace period ended Wednesday. Here are the details.
A day after the expiry of the 3-month period for defaulters to come clean on untaxed money, the government claims to have received an amount of 3,770 crore rupees. The amount has been recovered from 638 declarations made during the grace period allowed under the new anti-black money law.
About 638 people have made declarations of undisclosed assets abroad, amounting to about 3,770 crore rupees. This is over and above the 6,500 which were disclosed in the earlier accounts, which were already known to the government, where tax proceedings have been going on.
The declarants will now have to pay tax at the rate of 30% and penalty also at the rate of 30% by the 31st of December. Tough action awaits those who did not avail the benefit of the 90-day compliance window.
Whatever has come, we accept it, and now onward we would start the action against those people who have not declared any assets and about whom the information would come to us.
जिस वक्त हमें नोटिस में आया उस वक्त से इस एक्ट पूरी फोर्स के साथ उस एसेट पे जो भी कार्रवाई है वो हम कर सकते हैं। एसेट के ऊपर टैक्स तो लगेगा 30%, उसके ऊपर 3 गुना पेनल्टी लगेगी। इसके अलावा प्रोसिक्यूशन होगा, प्रोसिक्यूशन में 10 साल तक की सजा हो सकती है।
Bringing back black money stashed abroad was a major poll promise of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Lok Sabha campaign. In fact, the Prime Minister had even said that 15 lakh rupees would be given to every citizen if illegal wealth stashed in foreign accounts was brought back. His claim has been repeatedly panned by rival parties. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
On to elections in Bihar, where the BJP today released the NDA's vision document for the state. Party leader said it provides a better alternative to the residents of the state, and that what the Grand Alliance leaders are offering to the state despite ruling it for 68 years.
Vote for the NDA and the centre will stand behind Bihar. That's what BJP leader Arun Jaitley told voters on Thursday while releasing the vision document of the alliance in the presence of party president Amit Shah and other union ministers.
ये बिहार में एक चार्टर ऑफ डेवलपमेंट है और आर्थिक दृष्टि से बिहार को पिछड़ेपन से निकालने का एक संकल्प है।
Calling the grand alliance of the RJD, JDU and Congress a three-legged race, Jaitley warned voters of anarchy and jungle raj if the rival coalition came to power.
जंगल राज के जो निर्माता निर्देशक थे वही हैं। केवल अभिनेता बदलने से उसका उस शासन का, उस गठबंधन का चरित्र बदलने वाला नहीं है।
Jaitley called the Grand Alliance a contradictory coalition where followers of differing thoughts and ideologies were coming together for political gains. BJP leaders hailed the vision document, claiming that the party won the last 3 polls on the promise of freeing the state from jungle raj and had done nothing for the state.
हमारी 11 राज्यों में सरकारें हैं, हर राज्य में बेहतर शासन प्रशासन दिया है, तो हमारे बीजेपी शासित राज्यों में जो बेहतर काम हुए हैं उसके आधार पर हम लोगों ने एक विजन डॉक्यूमेंट बनाया है और बिहार की परिस्थितियों को में उसको ढाल कर, जैसे बिहार के अंदर गरीबी बहुत ज्यादा है।
NDA's rivals dismissed the vision document, calling it an attempt to mislead the public in Bihar while diverting attention from its real objectives.
उस दस्तावेज में वादों की बौछार होगी और चुनाव के बाद अगर उन वादों को कार्यान्वित करने की बात उठे तो जुमलों की भी बौछार होगी।
सबसे पहले तो मैं मानता हूं कि ये हास्यास्पद है। जिस दल के पास, जिस विचारधारा के पास कोई विजन ना हो, वो विजन डॉक्यूमेंट लेके आए। हम तो उनका विजन जानते हैं।
The NDA's document focuses on education, jobs for youth, women empowerment and infrastructure development. Chief Minister Nitish Kumar's vision document, released a few days ago, has a 7-point agenda that includes free Wi-Fi in colleges, a student credit card scheme for loans to pursue education, and an unemployment allowance. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, with increased life expectancy, affordable and accessible medical care for the elderly is the need of the day. Addressing a function on the International Day of Older Persons, President Pranab Mukherjee also said that there was a need to sensitize society to the challenges faced by the elderly on a day-to-day basis. The President stressed on greater need for geriatric care. He also cited the Indian tradition of respecting and caring for the elderly. The Vice President too raised a voice in support of the elderly. He said their care was mandated under the Constitution. The government is also preparing a comprehensive national policy to be unveiled next year. This policy will ensure that the welfare of elderly people living across the country. The government has invited suggestions from NGOs and other stakeholders as it feels that public participation is important in forming any policy. The new policy will replace the existing one, which was formed in 1999.
It is important that institutions to provide geriatric care, be established, strengthened, and made more affordable for the common man.
Well-being of elderly persons has been mandated in the Constitution of India. Article 41, as directive principle of state policy, provides that the state shall, within the limits of its economic capacity and development, make effective provision for securing the right of public assistance in cases of old age.
Let's get you some more national news and updates in Nationwide. The Himachal Pradesh High Court has put a stay on the arrest of Chief Minister Veerbhadra Singh and his wife in connection with the disproportionate assets case. The court asked the CBI to continue the inquiry in the case. It has been directed to keep the court informed before interrogating the couple and fix the next hearing on the 18th of November. The Supreme Court has refused to grant interim bail to former Delhi Law Minister Somnath Bharti in a domestic violence and attempt to murder case against his wife. Bharti had sought bail till the 5th of October, alleging ill treatment by the police. His police custody has been extended by 3 days. Truck unions have moved for a nationwide indefinite strike to protest the present toll tax system. They have alleged that the present system is corrupt and costly. The strike was called by the All India Motor Transport Congress after talks between its delegation and the government failed on Wednesday. Vice-Chancellor of the Visva Bharati University, Sushanta Datta Gupta, has stepped down after allegations of irregularities. He sent his resignation to the president after he was accused of mishandling financial and administrative duties. The move came after he was served a show cause notice by the Human Resource Development Ministry. Time for a quick break now. On the other side, all the international news. Afghan forces reclaimed the Kunduz city from Taliban militants, but questions remain over its preparedness in the absence of foreign troops.
The poll juggernaut rolls out in Bihar. Modi's NDA takes on Nitish's Grand Alliance. Who will win this most important election battle since 2014? Watch Verdict 2015, Monday through Saturday on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching the news at 6. Now, Nepal continues to battle shortage of essential items as over 4,000 trucks from India are stranded at the border over protests. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj met Nepal's Foreign Minister Mahendra Pandey in New York and rejected charges that India has blocked out supplies to the neighbour. India has asked Nepalese people and political parties to resolve the crisis.
These trucks carrying essential supplies to Nepal have been stranded at the border for days now. With no end in sight to the ongoing protest over the new constitution, stocks are running out for people who depend on India for fuel, gas and other essential food items. The centre said it is helpless amid security concerns on the other side of the border.
We can only take goods up to the border. Beyond the border, it is the responsibility of the Nepalese side to ensure that there is adequate safety and security for the trucks to enter that side.
Top leaders in Nepal have accused India of violating international laws by halting cross-border trade. But India has rejected the allegations as totally baseless. Late on Wednesday, External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj had a meeting with her Nepali counterpart, Mahendra Pandey, to discuss the crisis.
The Nepalese Foreign Minister stated categorically that Nepal considered India to be its closest neighbour and a very valued friend. India EM reciprocated the sentiment, and then there was a discussion on the current political situation in Nepal, where, as you know, some of the parties are protesting against the adoption of the constitution, and there have been ongoing protests, etc. EM outlined her perspective on the events in Nepal.
Meanwhile, Nepal has begun rationing of petroleum products to tackle the fuel crisis. Yesterday, trucks from India carrying essential goods and petroleum products started entering Nepal after being stranded for more than 5 days on the border. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, Russia and the United States will hold urgent military talks later tonight to discuss the anti-terror operations in Syria. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and his counterpart In Russia, Sergei Lavrov said both nations want to avoid conflict during their respective operations. Meanwhile, Russia launched fresh airstrikes in Syria for the second straight day. The US claims that Russian targets were non-IS opponents of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad.
Days after Obama-Putin meeting on the sidelines of UNGA, US Secretary of State John Kerry and his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov will meet to discuss Syria.
This meeting, as a follow-up to the discussions between the two presidents, is a very useful occasion to promote constructive and safe approaches to the situation in Syria and around it.
I relayed and reiterated the concerns that I expressed in the course of the UN Security Council meeting, which was led by Russia today. Concerns that we have, obviously, about the nature of the targets, the type of targets, and the need for clarity with respect to them. And it is one thing, obviously, to be targeting ISIL. We're concerned, obviously.
The US is concerned over Russian airstrikes in Syria. The US claims that Russian airstrikes were launched at non-IS positions. Kremlin responds saying that their targets include a list of terror groups, not just Islamic State. This even as they pounded several terror targets in Syria for the second straight day. France and Britain have backed the US statement, even as the Syrian opposition also alleged that the Russian airstrikes only killed civilians.
The Russian airstrikes has killed 36 innocent people in Hamas. We condemn by all means the Russian airstrikes against civilians, and we urged before that the Russians are intervening Syria not for fighting ISIL. They intervened to prolong the life of Bashar al-Assad and support.
Earlier during the UNGA meeting, Russia had agreed to join the US in fight against IS in Syria. However, the major point of contention was the fate of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, a Russian ally. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, it took the Afghan forces 3 days to recapture Kunduz city after Taliban militants captured it on Monday. An overnight operation launched by the Afghan forces and assisted by the US military led to the recapturing of key areas of Kunduz. According to government officials, the Taliban suffered heavy casualties in the special operation. However, fighting continues in other parts of the province where militants are still believed to be in control. The crisis, however, has raised questions on whether the country still needs foreign troops to tackle terrorism in 2016 as well. It was also seen as an embarrassment for President Ashraf Ghani on the eve of his first year in office. Time now to take a look at all the other international news stories in Global Buzz. The Palestinian flag was raised outside the UN headquarters in New York for the first time on Wednesday. Last month, the General Assembly approved the resolution to raise the flag with 119 votes in favor. The historic event came after Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas told the UN General Assembly that it was no longer bound by the Oslo Peace Accords. Thousands attended China's National Day celebrations in Hong Kong. The government held the annual October 1st flag-raising ceremony to mark the 66th anniversary of the People's Republic of China. The celebrations are taking place a day after the serial letter bomb blast hit China, in which 7 people were killed and over 50 were injured. Amid the migrant crisis in Europe, Republican US presidential frontrunner Donald Trump has said that he would send home all Syrian refugees if elected. His remark comes within weeks after the US Secretary of State announced that the US would significantly increase the number of migrants it takes in over the next 2 years. Time now for all the sports action and sports beat. Cristiano Ronaldo has equaled Raul's all-time goal record for Real Madrid on Wednesday night. He scored 2 in Real's Champions League win against Malmo. The 2 goals were have taken his club tally to 323 goals and a career total of 501. Ronaldo achieved the feat in 308 games, while Raul took 741 appearances. Manchester United came from behind to beat Wolfsburg 2-1 in the Champions League group stage. The Premier League leaders were a goal down in the 4th minute, but Juan Mata equalised from the spot before Chris Smalling scored the winner. This was United's first win in the Champions League this season. World number one Serena Williams will not feature in the rest of the season this year after withdrawing from the China Open and the WTA finals in Singapore. She said she needs time, in fact more time to recover fully from injuries. Serena has already missed out on a calendar slam this year after losing the US Open final. Well, that's all from us. Goodbye.